stress is meant to be brief, short, and it improves us. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. So, yeah, you could take that latter point and say, wow, let me just go out. If it's not going to kill me, let me just go out and do ultra marathons every other day. Well, that is way too much stress. So the kind of stress that we had throughout most of our existence was an animal trying to kill us, another human being trying to kill us, a hurricane or a tornado or something that blows through. But the kind of stress we see today are more often sources of stress from vocations, our jobs that we hate. And you get these chronic, recurring emails and telephone calls, and we just are always stressed out getting up and making those donuts. And so in the past, we would hunt and we would have long periods of basically boredom punctuated by extreme moments of terror, where things would be, either we're trying to kill this animal or another animal's trying to kill us, or not a human being. It was often the case, and not other humans were trying to kill us. And so those brief momentary stressors improve us. So you want to be cognizant of and understand the chronic stress that I would include distance running and distance cycling in that. And I think that's in part why we are seeing, and you can just Google this, distance running, atrial fibrillation. And we're seeing disease, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, cardiovascular disease, cardiac dysrhythmias, and people that do distance running and distance cycling and too much of that. That's not like I hate bicycle. Get on your bike, sprint, and then get off your bike and then walk. So you want to sprint. You don't want to do distance running. You want to have very, very heightened levels of stress in a very short period of time instead of protracting over a longer period of time. So hopefully that helps to elucidate an awareness and understanding that stress is good when it's really intense, really short, and infrequent. And when you change those parameters and you lower the intensity, because let's face it, if you're doing a marathon, you ain't sprinting. Now, those guys that do those marathons probably are out technically running faster than the majority of people could even sprint today. There are levels of speed on that. But they would be capable of sprinting faster, in a shorter period of time, maximum effort. But interesting, on those people that sustain those high speeds, their capacity for doing that sprinting is dramatically reduced. So you use a different type of muscle fiber when you are doing endurance exercise. So there's type 1 and type 2, fast twitch and slow twitch. And I'm just going to make a big case that you want more fast twitch. In the end, that is what life is the quality of life is predicated upon, because it's your fast twitch muscles that allow you to do this. Get your butt out of a chair when you're 95 years old or even 75. And if you concentrated on slow twitch, you might be able to jog for a long period of time, having over those decades, but eventually you're going to lose those fast twitch muscles that allow you to get up and out of that chair, and also to make a corrective measure, like when you're standing up and you're about to fall, to move quickly to balance yourself. And so that's why the majority of, 85, 90-year-olds, you see them driving, they can't react for crap. I mean, they suck at their reaction. They just can't do anything fast because they've lost that fast twitch. But if you maintain that explosive energy, fast, sprinting, box jumps, squat jumps, jumping up and down, then you preserve that capacity to have fast reaction. And that's what's going to, one, protect you and also improve the quality of life. Because I want to be 150, I don't know if I can make it 150, 130. And I'm strong and I'm lifting up things and I'm reacting. I'm jumping out of the way of a car or a tree branch falling on me. Or, if I, get bumped in a supermarket, I can correct my action very quick and recover my balance. and not fall over.
All right, so we know sprinting good, whether it be on a bike, on your feet, for helping reduce visceral fat. One of the questions that kept on coming up after our first chat was, what if I have an injury to, say, my knee, my ankle, something that prohibits me from sprinting? What can those people do?
Yeah, so that comes up a lot. So very often, let me just address this issue. People feel like their knees are bad and they can't sprint. You can't jog. Yeah, you've worn out your joints. You've generated so many reactive oxygen species. You just have so much inflammation in your body, and probably a lot of it's coming from your visceral fat. And by the way, when I scan people who are distance runners, what we would routinely see inside them was elevated amounts of visceral fat. So, this is a marathoner who would do 8 to 10 marathons a year, elevated visceral fat. And then this is the same individual's heart. So look at all that fat around their heart. I mean, it's a huge amount of fat that starts at this point here and goes out. That's all heart fat, or we call pericardial fat, epicardial fat, all a big chunk of a highly inflammatory fat around their heart. So distance running causes this fat depot of inflammatory fat to accumulate. So distance runners oftentimes wear out their joints. Let's face it, the majority of them eventually do. It's a rare individual that runs over a lifetime and still running in their 90s, 80s, and 90s. So to people that are in their 50s, maybe 40s, 50s, and 60s, and you've got knee pain and your doctor said no more running, well, take on his word, no more running. Get back to sprinting. Start sprinting. Everybody's sprinting when they were a kid. So the difference is you're only sprinting for seconds. So you just need to basically start out doing 3 to 5 second sprints, work your way up to 6 to 10 second sprints. But on this topic of sprinting, warning, 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 warning. Accelerate very, 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 and then 10 times more very slowly. Why? Because it's in the acceleration that you will strain a muscle. And at your age, depending on how much visceral fat you have, you could have a significant injury. Recently, Kevin Hart tore his abdomen. I presume that what he means by that he got a hernia and he couldn't walk and was being driven around by a limousine with his wheelchair because he could no longer walk. That was a bad injury. So that's because he raced somebody else, I think it was a former NFL player, and at some barbecue, and he tore his abdomen. So you don't need to pretend that you're at the Olympics. You just need to start very, very slowly accelerating, and you'll have less joint impact and damage to your joints if you have a lot of joint disease. But getting back to the question that you asked, if somebody has, I don't know, another injury, something else, then what you could do is sprint swim. Go into a pool and just basically sprint swim. Like you're at the Olympics and you're going for a gold medal for the American freestyle. Just do it for like 10 seconds. You don't have to go swim in laps. In fact, I don't recommend you swim laps. Go and sprint swim. When I was doing that, I would do 10, sprints down the pool, and that was it. I didn't go and swim for an hour and a half. I did 10 max effort sprints, sprint swimming. And you could also sprint in a pool in water resistance. So your joints aren't going to be going up and down. Usually, whatever limitation you have, you could try but sprinting in water against resistance. So that's another form. And a third one that I recommend considering doing is sprint cycling. So get a stationary bike like a Carol bike or an attack bike, and you sit on it and you sprint against resistance dialed up. So it's really hard. And you do that for 10, 20, 30 seconds. And that will be of considerable benefit to you. Make no mistake about it. It will not be a perfect substitute for sprinting, because nothing is a perfect substitute for the world's best exercise, sprinting. But it will be better than not sprinting at all. So consider sprint cycling, and another fourth form would be sprint rowing. So you could get on like a concept two rower and basically do a really intense high resistance rowing workout for 30 to 60 seconds, and that will provide you considerable benefit compared to jumping on that rower and doing it for 30 minutes.
For somebody that's taken the proper amount of time and built up, what is the ideal when it comes to sprinting? Somebody like you, how many times a week? How long each sprint? How many sprints? What should we aim for?
Yeah, so I get this a lot. And for those who are really interested in sprinting, I'm developing a master sprinting course that will go into this, and I'll cover all these subjects. But the quick answer is you want a variety. So again, avoid muscle memory. Some days I'll sprint one sprint for maybe 10 seconds, one sprint for maybe 3 seconds, or one sprint for 45 seconds. Other days I might do 6 to 10 sprints. I vary, I mix it up, and one sprint might be for 5 seconds, another one might be 20 seconds. So I like variety. Why do it that way? Because let's face it, our species did not exist and evolve through an exercise program. We optimize because of this thing called life. And sometimes we had to run longer against that animal to catch it, or we had to run longer to get away from another human or animal trying to chase us down. If you watch in nature, oftentimes they don't last real long, and an animal will give up pretty quick. Sometimes that cheetah is after that animal for a long time, goes on, or the rabbit. I've seen them go on for like 3 minutes or something, but that's about it. I mean, they don't go on forever is the point. And everyone is going to be kind of different. So nature favors variety. Resist the urge to develop your routine circuit where you're gonna got your sprinting program that's exactly the same all the time. So mix it up: short sprints, longer sprints. The shortest I would recommend is about 3 seconds. The longest, absolute longest I would ever consider sprinting would be 1 minute, and I'd do that maybe once a year. That's how infrequent that one is. And my sweet spot typically is around 15 seconds.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
Visceral fat causes inflammation throughout your body, leading to disease. It starts when you're young. It's the first expression of disease in the human body, and it continues throughout a lifetime. I tell people